She hugged a stranger in the rain, not knowing he'd just been left at the altar. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Let me take you into the life of a woman whose kind gesture will change everything for her and a stranger in the most unexpected way. It all started one rainy afternoon. The soft hum of conversations and the clinking of silverware filled the warm, dimly lit restaurant. The tables were filled with patrons enjoying their meals, each seemingly at ease in their perfectly tailored attire. But Emma Brooks wasn't one of them. She stood at the entrance, her heart pounding, her eyes scanning the room. She adjusted the straps of her worn-out second-hand dress, trying her best to breathe through the nerves. She had promised her best friend Jenny she would go through with this. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, trying to hold on to her composure as she made her way into the restaurant. It was a date she hadn't been looking forward to, not because of the man she was supposed to meet, but because of the stark difference between her and everyone else in the room. Her shoes were scuffed, and the dress she wore had been stitched up at the hem after an accidental tear. She wasn't the type of woman who belonged in a fancy restaurant like this, but Jenny had insisted. She had promised. As she made her way through the restaurant, Emma muttered under her breath, trying to figure out which table she was supposed to sit at. Table 7. Table 7. She repeated to herself, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes landed on a man sitting alone, his dark hair neatly styled, a crisp suit outlining his broad shoulders. He looked absorbed in his phone, unaware of her approach. This had to be him, she thought. She took a deep breath and walked over to his table, forcing a bright smile. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you." The man looked up, startled, blinking a few times, clearly confused. He stared at her for a moment, unsure of how to respond. Hi, Emma," he stammered. Emma, completely misunderstanding his hesitation, slid into the seat across from him. "I know, this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man opened his mouth to correct her but hesitated. He was supposed to be meeting with a business associate, but the meeting had just been canceled, and something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. He decided to play along, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Right, blind dates or something else?" he said, his voice light but amused. Emma laughed nervously, trying to ease the tension. She took a sip of her water and continued, "Tell me about yourself. I'm a waitress, nothing glamorous, but it pays most of the bills. What about you?" He hesitated before answering, clearly choosing his words carefully. "I work in tech," he said vaguely, leaning back in his chair. "Tech?" Emma's eyes widened. "Like coding and apps and stuff?" "I'm terrible with computers." He smiled faintly, clearly amused by her honesty. "Something like that," he replied. The conversation continued, surprisingly easy for two people who had just met. Emma shared stories about her shifts at the diner, the struggles of paying rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. Liam, as she now knew him, listened intently, laughing at her anecdotes and enjoying the genuine connection that seemed to form between them. She looked at him, her cheeks flushing slightly. "You're not what I expected," she said, her tone a little more thoughtful now. "Jenny said you were reserved." Liam raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "Well," Emma said, her voice quieter now, "Jenny said you were a little shy, but you're easy to talk to." Liam chuckled softly. "You're easy to talk to too," he replied, the compliment catching Emma off guard. As they continued to chat, the atmosphere between them felt natural, comfortable. They shared stories, laughed, and Emma started to relax. Just as she was about to ask him more about his work in tech, her phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen, and her heart sank as she read the message from Jenny. "Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Emma's face turned bright red, and she looked up at Liam, feeling the embarrassment wash over her. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's smile faltered, a flash of guilt crossing his face. "No, I'm not," he admitted. Emma felt a wave of mortification rush over her, and she stood up abruptly, grabbing her coat. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." Liam stood as well, a slight laugh escaping him. "It's okay," he said, trying to ease her panic. "But you really thought I was Kevin?" Emma nodded, still flushed with embarrassment. "Yeah, I did." She turned to leave, but Liam called after her. "Wait," he said, his voice more serious now. "It's really okay. It's just a mix-up." Emma paused, looking back at him, her heart racing. The awkwardness was too much to handle. She rushed out of the restaurant, barely looking back. Liam watched her go, a strange feeling of regret settling in his chest. He had intended to correct her from the start, but now, he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't want this moment to end. The encounter had been brief, but it had left him wondering if he would ever see her again. After rushing out of the restaurant, Emma felt her heart race as she quickly made her way down the street. Her thoughts were a blur of embarrassment, confusion, and a dash of disappointment. She had convinced herself she could handle this blind date, but now she couldn't help but feel like she had made a fool of herself. As she rounded the corner, she took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. It wasn't the end of the world. She could just forget about it, right? After all, she had a dream to chase. Emma pushed the thoughts aside and reminded herself of the bigger picture. Her art studio, the thing she was working so hard for. She would get there, even if it meant navigating through awkward moments like tonight. Still, the image of the man, the one she had just met by mistake, stayed in her mind. His warmth, his smile, the way he had listened to her stories. Was he really as shy as Jenny had said? Or was there more to him than met the eye? Emma didn't know, and she wasn't sure she cared to find out. The next morning, Emma woke up early to her usual routine. She had just enough time to get dressed in her second-hand clothes, grab a quick cup of coffee, and catch the bus to the diner where she worked. The day passed in a blur of customers and plates, her mind distracted, her heart still carrying the weight of the awkward blind date incident. By the time she finished her shift, it was already late, and she was exhausted. She stepped out into the chilly evening air, pulling her worn-out coat tighter around her shoulders. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she pulled it out, only to see a message from Jenny. "Hey, just heard from Kevin's assistant. They want to set up another meeting for next week. What do you think?" Emma smiled softly, thinking of how much she didn't want to see Kevin again. But of course, Jenny was persistent, and Emma knew she couldn't avoid her best friend's matchmaking attempts forever. As she started walking down the street toward the bus stop, she felt her phone buzz again. This time, the message was from an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment, wondering whether or not to check it. Curiosity won over, and she opened the message. "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I'm the guy you sat with last night. I know this might be strange, but I just wanted to say that it was really nice talking to you. I know the whole thing was a mix-up, but I'd love to meet again, maybe over coffee? Let me know what you think." Emma stared at the screen, unsure of how to respond. A part of her wanted to brush it off and move on, but another part felt something she hadn't expected, hope. She couldn't deny that there had been something easy about their conversation, something real. Her fingers hovered over the screen as she typed out a quick response. "Hi Liam, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. Honestly, I'm not sure what to say. It was definitely a mix-up last night, but I guess coffee sounds good. When are you free?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself. She leaned back against the bench at the bus stop, trying to quiet the whirlwind of emotions that had just resurfaced. She wasn't sure what this was. Was it just curiosity, or was there more to this? The next day, they met at a small coffee shop tucked away on a quiet street corner. Liam was already sitting at a table when Emma arrived, and as she walked in, he looked up, his face breaking into a warm smile. He stood up as she approached, pulling out the chair across from him. "I hope this place is okay," he said, his tone casual but sincere. "I wanted to pick somewhere low-key, no pressure." Emma smiled, appreciating his thoughtfulness. "It's perfect," she replied, sitting down. They ordered their drinks, and soon they were deep into conversation again. The tension from the previous night was gone, replaced by something much more comfortable. They talked about their lives, their dreams, and even their pasts. Emma felt like she was seeing a side of Liam she hadn't expected. He wasn't just the quiet, mysterious guy from the night before. There was a depth to him, a kindness that made her feel at ease. She learned that he wasn't just a tech guy, he was an entrepreneur, running his own startup. But beyond the business talk, there was something more personal that caught her attention. He seemed genuinely interested in her art, her struggles, and her hopes for the future. She began to feel something shift within herself, a connection she hadn't anticipated. As the conversation continued, Liam shared more about his life, but he still hadn't revealed the whole truth. Emma couldn't help but wonder if he was holding something back, but she didn't press him, choosing instead to enjoy the moment. They shared laughs, talked about their favorite books, and even discuss some of their most embarrassing childhood stories. For the first time in a while, Emma felt truly seen. Just as they were finishing up their coffee, Liam looked at her, his expression more serious now. "I know we're still getting to know each other," he said, his voice a little quieter. "But I'd really like to see where this could go. I'm not looking for anything complicated, but I don't know. There's something about you." Emma felt a warm flush spread across her cheeks at his words. She didn't know how to respond, but her heart was already racing. She had to admit she felt the same way. But was it too soon to say it? Before she could say anything, Liam added, "I think we should give this a real chance. What do you say?" Her mind was spinning, but Emma knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a casual meeting. This was the beginning of something unexpected, something real. She looked at Liam, her heart pounding in her chest, and finally allowed herself to smile. "I think I'd like that," she said softly. And with that, the first chapter of their unexpected connection began. Over the next few days, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more than she expected. Their coffee date had been just the beginning, and as they exchanged messages, the connection between them grew stronger. She couldn't help but smile at the way he made her feel at ease, how he seemed genuinely interested in her life and her dreams. He was so different from anyone she had met before, and yet, something about him felt so familiar, as if they had known each other forever. It was still early, but she felt like she was ready to explore whatever this was. She just wasn't sure if she was ready for what came next. On the weekend, Liam invited her to an art gallery opening. Emma hesitated at first. She wasn't sure if she fit into that world. It wasn't the kind of place she usually went to, but something told her this was important. Maybe it was his invitation, or maybe it was the way he had spoken about art like it was something that mattered deeply to him. Not just a hobby, but a passion. When she arrived at the venue, she felt completely out of place. The gallery was filled with people in designer clothes, discussing art and the meaning behind each piece. Emma's hands fidgeted nervously as she made her way through the room, scanning the art on the walls but not really seeing it. She was too focused on feeling like she didn't belong. As she tried to find a quiet corner to stand in, she saw Liam across the room, looking back at her with a warm smile. He motioned for her to come over, and she walked toward him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hey, you made it," Liam said, his voice light and welcoming. "I'm so glad you came." Emma smiled, though she couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. "I wasn't sure about this, to be honest," she said, glancing around at the crowd. "It's a little overwhelming." Liam chuckled, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "I get it. It's a bit much, but don't worry, just follow me." He took her hand gently and led her through the crowd, stopping in front of one of the paintings. "This one," Liam said, his voice soft but confident, "reminds me of you." Emma looked at the painting, a beautiful landscape with sweeping colors and bold strokes. It was chaotic but somehow harmonious, much like the way she felt about life. She turned to him, surprised. "How so?" Liam smiled, his expression thoughtful. "Because you're like this painting. At first glance, you might seem like you don't fit, but when you look closer, there's this incredible depth to you. I see it in your art, in the way you talk about your dreams. There's so much more than meets the eye." Emma's heart fluttered. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. It was as if Liam had truly seen her, understood her in a way she hadn't allowed anyone else to. For the first time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of being in a place like this, surrounded by beauty and creativity. As they moved through the gallery, Emma began to relax. She started to enjoy the art, not just as an observer, but as a participant, feeling a connection to the pieces and the people around her. The night was full of laughter, conversation, and an unspoken understanding between her and Liam. He introduced her to some of his friends, all of whom were warm and kind, but there was a part of her that still clung to the uncertainty she felt about herself. She didn't belong in this world. She thought she was just a waitress, someone who was still struggling to make ends meet. But as the evening came to a close, Liam turned to her with a sincere smile. "I want you to know something, Emma. You belong here. You belong in this world, in my world. You are enough, just as you are." His words hit her like a wave, and for the first time in a long time she allowed herself to believe them. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, or maybe it was the way he made her feel like she was the most important person in the room, but she could feel something changing inside her. As they stepped out of the gallery and into the cool night air, Liam looked at her, his gaze soft. "I know this is all happening fast, but I just wanted to say, I'm really glad I met you, Emma." Emma smiled, her heart racing with emotions she couldn't quite name. "I'm glad I met you too, Liam." They stood there for a moment, the city lights casting a gentle glow around them. In that moment, everything felt possible. And even though Emma wasn't sure what the future held, she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let this connection slip away. She was ready to take a chance on it, on him, and on herself. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of new experiences, late-night conversations, and quiet moments spent together. Liam was there for her when things got tough, always offering support and encouragement. He never once made her feel less than enough, and that was something Emma had never experienced before. She had always felt like she was fighting to prove herself, but with Liam, it felt like she didn't have to try so hard. He accepted her as she was, and that made all the difference. As the days passed, Emma couldn't help but notice how much her life had changed since meeting Liam. What had started as a simple mistake at a restaurant had turned into something far deeper than she ever expected. Liam was not just a man she had met by accident, he had become someone she could rely on, someone who made her feel like she was worthy of more than just scraping by. Every day, he showed her how much he cared, with little gestures that meant the world to her. Whether it was sending her flowers to brighten her day, showing up at the diner with lunch when he knew she was working late, or just texting her to check in, Liam had a way of making her feel seen in a way no one had before. It wasn't just the big things that mattered. It was the small moments, the way he listened to her, talk about her dreams without interrupting, the way he always made her feel like she was the most important person in the room. Emma had never been one to let her guard down easily, but with Liam, it felt different. She trusted him, something she hadn't done with anyone in a long time. It was clear to her that he was genuine, and he wasn't trying to impress her with empty gestures or grand statements. His actions spoke louder than any words could. One evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Liam turned to her with a serious look in his eyes. "Emma, there's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his voice soft but full of intent. She looked up at him, her heart beating a little faster. They had been spending more time together, and she could sense that this moment felt different. "What's on your mind?" she asked, her voice gentle. Liam hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I know we've only known each other for a short time, but I feel like I've known you forever. You make me feel like I'm more than just a guy with money and a business. You make me feel like I matter for who I am, not for what I have. And that's something I've never experienced before." He paused, looking at her with a vulnerability she had never seen in him before. "I want to be with you, Emma. I know we have our differences, and I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to take this chance, if you are." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she processed his words. She had never expected to hear anything like this from him. She had always been cautious when it came to relationships, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of trusting someone completely. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw sincerity, something real. "I've never met anyone like you, Liam," Emma said, her voice shaking slightly. "You've shown me that there's more to life than just getting by, and I feel the same way about you. I want to take a chance too." Liam smiled, a look of relief washing over his face. He gently took her hand, his thumb brushing against her skin. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, his voice warm. "We don't know where this is going, but I'm willing to find out with you." As they walked through the park, hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was heading in the right direction. Over the next few weeks, their relationship deepened, and Emma found herself opening up to Liam more and more. She shared her dreams of starting her own art studio, and Liam listened intently, offering his support in every way he could. He helped her plan her next steps, and even introduced her to some of his contacts in the business world, opening doors she never thought possible. It was more than she had ever hoped for. But as much as she enjoyed the time they spent together, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Liam wasn't telling her. There were moments when he seemed distant, lost in thought, as though he was carrying a burden he didn't want to share. She had always respected his privacy, but her curiosity got the better of her. One evening, as they sat in his penthouse apartment, sipping wine and talking about their plans for the future, Emma finally decided to ask. "Liam, is there something you're not telling me?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. "You seem different sometimes, like you're hiding something." Liam sighed, his gaze dropping to his glass. He was silent for a moment, as if weighing his words. Finally, he looked up at her, his expression serious. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you. It's not easy for me to say, but I don't want to keep anything from you. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she waited for him to continue. I'm not just some guy who works in tech, Liam said, his voice heavy with emotion. I've built this empire, yes, but I've also lost a lot in the process. I've made mistakes, and I've hurt people along the way. My past is something I've been running from, trying to avoid facing, and I didn't want to bring that into this relationship. But I realize now that if we're going to move forward, you deserve to know the truth. Emma listened intently, her heart aching as she sensed the weight of his words. She had never imagined that someone like Liam could have a past filled with such pain. But as he shared his story with her, she realized that he wasn't perfect, but he was trying to be better. He was opening up to her, showing her a side of himself he had kept hidden for so long. I don't know what the future holds, Liam continued, his voice soft. But I want to try with you. I want to be better, for both of us. Emma reached out, taking his hand in hers. I'm here, Liam, she said softly. We'll figure it out together. And with that, their bond grew even stronger, built on trust, honesty, and a shared desire to build something real, something lasting. They didn't know where their journey would lead, but they knew they were ready to face it together. As the weeks went by, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger, and with every passing day, Emma felt more at home with him. She had never imagined herself in a relationship like this one, built on trust, vulnerability, and shared dreams. But with Liam, it all seemed so natural, as if their lives had been destined to intertwine. The connection between them wasn't just physical. It was deep, emotional, and real. They had faced the awkwardness of their first meeting, the uncertainty of opening up to one another, but now it felt like they were building something that could last. Despite all the progress, Emma still struggled with the reality of their differences. Liam came from a world of wealth and privilege, one that Emma had never experienced. His life was filled with expensive dinners, high-end events, and a circle of people who saw him for his business success, rather than the person he truly was. Emma, on the other hand, had spent her whole life trying to make ends meet, working long hours at the diner and struggling to save enough money for her dream of opening an art studio. But as much as she tried to convince herself that their differences didn't matter, a small voice in her head kept asking, could they really make this work? One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, the city lights flickering below them, Emma voiced the question that had been on her mind for days. Liam, do you ever think about the future? I mean, do you think we really have a chance at making this work? Liam looked at her, his expression soft but serious. Of course I do, he replied, his voice steady. But I'm not going to lie to you, Emma. It won't always be easy. We both come from different worlds. There will be challenges, no doubt about it. But I believe in us. I believe in what we have. Emma let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be without its bumps, but hearing Liam's words gave her the reassurance she needed. He wasn't just saying the right things. He was showing her that he was willing to fight for their relationship, no matter what it took. Over the next few months, Emma started to feel more comfortable in Liam's world. She was slowly introduced to his colleagues, his friends, and the people who mattered most to him. At first, she felt like a fish out of water. Her secondhand clothes, her simple lifestyle, and her modest background felt like a stark contrast to the polished high society world Liam was a part of. But the more time she spent with him, the more she realized that it wasn't about the money, the status, or the fancy dinners. It was about the person sitting across from her, about how he made her feel loved, supported, and seen. One day, Liam surprised Emma with an invitation to a charity gala he was hosting. It was a black tie event, and Emma knew she would have to step outside her comfort zone. As she stood in front of the mirror that evening, putting on the elegant dress Liam had bought for her, she couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. She had come so far from the waitress who had barely made it through her days, and now here she was, attending a glamorous event by Liam's side. At the gala, Emma couldn't help but notice the way people looked at her. Some were curious, some were envious, and some simply seemed baffled by her presence. She couldn't help but feel out of place, but Liam was right by her side the entire time, reassuring her with gentle touches and warm smiles. "You look beautiful," he whispered in her ear as they made their way through the crowd. As the evening went on, Emma felt herself starting to relax. She was beginning to understand that it didn't matter what the people around her thought. What mattered was that she was here, with Liam, someone who cared about her for who she was, not for what she had. But as the night progressed, something unexpected happened. Liam's ex-girlfriend, a striking woman dressed in an expensive gown, approached them. Emma immediately tensed up, unsure of what to expect. She had heard about Liam's past relationships, but she hadn't imagined running into one of them at such an intimate event. "Liam," the woman said, her tone a little too sweet. "It's so good to see you. I didn't expect to see you here with her." Emma's heart skipped a beat, and she could feel her anxiety rising. She forced a smile, trying to remain composed. Liam, however, wasn't fazed. He turned to Emma, his hand resting reassuringly on her back. "Actually, Emma's the one I wanted to be here with," Liam said firmly, his eyes locked on his ex. "She's the one I care about." Emma felt a surge of relief at his words, and she looked up at him, surprised by the conviction in his voice. It was clear that Liam wasn't going to let anyone or anything come between them. The ex-girlfriend didn't say anything more and quickly walked away, leaving Emma and Liam standing together in the middle of the crowd. Liam smiled at Emma, his gaze soft and sincere. "I meant what I said," he added quietly. "You're the one I want. No one else." Emma smiled back, her heart swelling with emotion. She realized, in that moment, that Liam wasn't just offering her a place in his world, he was offering her his heart. And for the first time in a long time, Emma believed she was worthy of it. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter, music, and dancing. But as Emma and Liam stood on the balcony, looking out at the city skyline, she knew that no matter where life took them, they would face it together. They had found something special in each other, and that was all that mattered. As they shared a quiet kiss under the stars, Emma finally felt like she was home. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam grew even closer, and the bond they shared only deepened. Liam continued to support her dreams, and Emma found herself opening up more than she ever had before. It was like she was finally letting go of the walls she had built around herself, and with Liam, it felt like those walls were unnecessary. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not just for what she could offer, but for who she was at her core. She could talk to him about her struggles, her fears, and even her doubts about their future, and he always listened. Despite all the positive changes, there were moments when Emma still felt like a small part of her wasn't fully ready to let go of her insecurities. There was always that nagging feeling that she didn't quite belong in Liam's world. She had grown up with nothing, scraping by on odd jobs, while Liam had everything at his fingertips: money, connections, and a life of luxury she had never imagined. They had shared so many beautiful moments together, but there were times when she couldn't shake the feeling that their differences might eventually pull them apart. She had spent so much of her life trying to prove herself, but could she ever truly feel like she was enough for someone like Liam? One evening, as they sat in his penthouse sipping wine and enjoying the quiet, Emma couldn't hold her thoughts back anymore. "Liam," she started, her voice soft but serious, "do you ever think about how different our worlds are? I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but sometimes I still feel like I'm not enough." Liam's eyes softened as he put his glass down and reached for her hand. "Emma, you are more than enough. I don't care about the money, the status, or the life you think I lead. I care about you, the person you are. That's what matters to me." Emma felt a rush of emotions at his words, but a part of her still felt unsure. She looked down at their hands, her thumb tracing the lines of his fingers. "But Liam, you've built this empire, this life. You're surrounded by people who understand your world, who know how to navigate it. I don't even know if I belong here with you in this world. It's so different from everything I've ever known." Liam pulled her closer, his voice steady and full of sincerity. "Emma, it's not about belonging to any world. It's about us being together, about finding a space where we both feel seen, understood, and loved. And I promise you, I will never let you feel like you're not enough. You're everything I've been looking for, and you don't need to change for me. I love you for who you are, not for where you come from or what you have." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she listened to him. She had never felt so completely accepted by anyone in her life. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of all the love Liam was giving her. She squeezed his hand gently, her heart swelling with affection. "I love you too, Liam. I just don't want to mess this up. It feels too good to be true." Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You won't mess it up, Emma. We're in this together, every step of the way." The reassurance in his voice gave Emma the courage to truly let go of her fears. She had spent so many years pushing people away, building walls around herself because she was afraid of getting hurt, afraid of being rejected. But with Liam, she realized that maybe it was okay to open up, to let someone in. And maybe, just maybe, It was okay to let herself believe in a love like this. As the night wore on, they continued talking about their hopes for the future. They made plans to visit a small town that Emma had always wanted to see, a place where she had dreamed of opening her art studio someday. Liam, ever the supportive partner, promised to help her make that dream a reality. He even mentioned that he had some connections in the art world that might help her get started. Emma couldn't believe it. She had spent so much of her life worrying about how to make her dreams come true, but with Liam by her side, she started to feel like anything was possible. A few weeks later, they took that trip to the small town, and Emma was overwhelmed by the beauty of the place. It was everything she had imagined and more. As they walked along the streets, hand in hand, Emma couldn't help but feel like this was the beginning of something new. A life that was hers to build, a future that was full of endless possibilities. She looked up at Liam, who was smiling down at her, and she knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Later that evening, after a long day of exploring, they sat on a bench overlooking the water, the sun setting in the distance. Liam turned to her with a serious look on his face. "Emma, there's something I want to ask you," he said, his voice soft but filled with meaning. "What is it?" she asked, her heart racing as she wondered what was coming next. Liam took a deep breath, looking into her eyes with an intensity that made her feel like the world had stopped spinning. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice full of love and hope. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the reality of his words sank in. She had never imagined this moment, but now that it was here, she knew, without a doubt, that the answer was yes. She smiled through her tears, nodding slowly. "Yes, Liam. Yes, I'll marry you." And in that moment, as they embraced under the fading light of the sunset, Emma realized that she had finally found her place not in a world of wealth and status, but in a love that was real, deep, and unconditional. The days following Liam's proposal were a whirlwind of joy, planning, and new beginnings. Emma could hardly believe that the life she had always dreamed of, owning an art studio, living in a peaceful town, was finally within her reach. Liam had been a constant source of support, not just emotionally but practically as well. He had helped her contact local artists, explore spaces for the studio, and even introduced her to people who could help her get her vision off the ground. Every step of the way, he was there by her side, showing her that she was more than capable of making her dreams come true. Despite the excitement of planning their future together, Emma couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was off. She loved Liam deeply, and they had shared so many beautiful moments, but there was still a part of her that felt unsure. Her past had always been filled with uncertainty and struggles, and she wondered if she was truly deserving of the life Liam was offering her. She knew she was good enough for him, but there were moments when the weight of her own self-doubt crept in, making her second-guess everything. One evening, after a long day of looking at potential studio spaces, Emma and Liam sat together in the quiet of their apartment. The soft glow of the city lights filtered through the window, casting a peaceful ambiance around them. Emma turned to Liam, her heart heavy with thoughts she hadn't yet shared. "Liam," she began, her voice hesitant, "there's something I need to talk to you about." Liam looked at her, concern flickering in his eyes. "What's on your mind?" Emma paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, and sometimes I still can't believe this is real. I keep wondering if I'm worthy of everything you're offering me, if I'm really enough." Liam reached for her hand, his grip gentle but firm. "Emma, you don't have to be perfect," he said softly. "You don't have to prove anything to me. You are more than enough, just the way you are. I love you, not for what you have or where you come from, but for who you are." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to him. The sincerity in his voice, the unwavering support he had shown her over the past few months, made her heart swell with emotion. She realized that her fears and insecurities were the only things holding her back. Liam had already accepted her completely, flaws and all. It was time for her to do the same. "I love you too, Liam," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I've struggled with this, but I'm ready. I'm ready to embrace all of it, the good, the bad, and everything in between. I want to build this life with you." Liam smiled, pulling her close. "And I'm so glad you're ready," he whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We're in this together, Emma, every step of the way." The next few weeks were a blur of excitement as Emma and Liam made final preparations for their wedding. They decided to keep it simple, surrounded by close friends and family in the small town Emma had always loved. It was everything she had ever dreamed of, an intimate ceremony with just the people who truly mattered. As the day of their wedding approached, Emma found herself filled with a mix of excitement and nerves. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. She had never imagined she would find someone like Liam, someone who saw her for who she truly was and loved her unconditionally. On the morning of the wedding, Emma stood in front of the mirror, taking in the sight of herself in the dress Liam had picked out for her. She looked different, stronger, more confident, like a woman who was finally at peace with herself. As she turned away from the mirror, she was greeted by her best friend Jenny, who had been there for her through thick and thin. "You look incredible," Jenny said, her voice filled with emotion. "Liam is going to lose it when he sees you." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with love for the people who had always supported her. She couldn't believe how far she had come, how far they had both come. When the time came, Emma walked down the aisle, her heart pounding with anticipation. As she reached Liam, she could see the tears in his eyes, and she knew, without a doubt, that this was the right decision. They were meant to be together. The ceremony was simple, but it was perfect. The vows they exchanged were filled with promises of love, trust, and loyalty. Emma had never felt so certain about anything in her life. Liam was the one she had always been waiting for, and she was ready to spend the rest of her life with him. Later that evening, as they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Emma felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. She was surrounded by love, not just from Liam but from everyone who had supported them along the way. They had both found something special in each other, and now they were embarking on the next chapter of their lives. As the night went on, the guests celebrated, but Emma and Liam found a quiet moment to themselves on the balcony, the stars twinkling above them. Liam turned to her, his voice full of emotion. "I'm so glad you're mine," he said softly. "I can't imagine my life without you." Emma smiled, her heart full. "And I'm so glad you're mine too." In that moment, she knew they had everything they needed each other. No matter what challenges they would face in the future, they would always have this love to carry them through. And for the first time, Emma felt truly at home, not just in Liam's world, but in her own skin, knowing that she was enough just as she was. As the months went by, Emma and Liam settled into their new life together. The initial excitement of their wedding had passed, but the love they shared had only deepened. They moved into a beautiful house in the small town Emma had always dreamed of living in. It was quiet and peaceful, a perfect place for her to finally start working on her art studio. Liam continued to support her every step of the way, encouraging her to pursue her passions while also helping her with the practical aspects of making her dream a reality. They were partners in every sense of the word, and Emma couldn't help but feel incredibly grateful for the life they had built together. But even as they created this beautiful life, there were moments of doubt. Emma still had her insecurities, and every so often, she found herself questioning whether she truly belonged in this world of wealth and privilege. Liam's business ventures were thriving, and the people around them often saw him for the success he had built. Emma, on the other hand, had grown up in a world where money was always tight, where she had to fight for everything she had. Sometimes it felt like the gap between their worlds was too big to bridge. But every time those doubts crept in, Liam was there to remind her that she was more than enough, that their love wasn't about where they came from, but who they were now together. One evening, as they sat in their living room, surrounded by the warmth of their home, Emma looked at Liam with a thoughtful expression. "Liam," she began, her voice a little hesitant, "do you ever think about the future? Do you ever wonder what's next for us?" Liam looked up from his book, meeting her gaze with a smile. "Of course I do," he said, setting the book down and moving closer to her. "I think about it all the time. We've come so far already, and there's so much more we can do together. But whatever happens, we'll face it together. I know that for sure." Emma felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had been thinking about their future a lot lately, wondering if they were on the right path. They had accomplished so much already. She had opened her art studio, and business was growing steadily. Liam's company continued to do well, and they were both in a place of stability and contentment. Still, there was a part of her that wondered if there was something more they were meant to do, something bigger than just living in the moment. "I just sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough," Emma confessed, her voice soft. "Like there's something more I could be giving, something more I could be achieving. But I don't know what it is." Liam reached out, taking her hand in his touch reassuring. "Emma, you're doing everything you need to. You've built something incredible here. You've created a space where people can experience art, where you can share your passion with the world. That's more than enough." "But it's not just about art, Liam," Emma said, her eyes searching his. "I feel like we have the potential to do more to make a difference, you know." Liam nodded thoughtfully. "I agree," he said slowly. But I think the difference we're making right now is the one that matters the most. We've created a life here, together, where we can help each other grow, where we can be there for the people around us. And sometimes that's more powerful than any grand gesture or big project we could dream up." Emma smiled, feeling the warmth of his words settle into her heart. He was right. They had already made a difference, even if it was in small, everyday ways. The love and support they gave each other, the way they helped others, the community they had built together, it was enough. And then, as if sensing the weight of her thoughts, Liam added, "What if the next step for us is just enjoying what we've built? What if it's about taking things one day at a time, focusing on what really matters?" Emma nodded, her heart lightening. "That sounds perfect," she said softly, leaning into him. "Maybe I've been trying to rush ahead, but maybe the most important thing is to just be present, to enjoy the now." They sat there in the quiet of their home, the evening stretching out before them, feeling more connected than ever. It was in moments like these that Emma realized just how far she had come, not just in her career, but in her heart. She had found someone who loved her for who she was, who supported her dreams, and who made her believe in herself even when she doubted. She had found a partner, someone who walked beside her every step of the way. As the days turned into weeks, Emma and Liam's life together continued to unfold, each day bringing new joys and challenges, but always with a sense of peace knowing they had each other. They traveled, explored new places, and continued to build their life with love at the center of everything. Their bond was unshakable, grounded in trust, respect, and shared dreams. In the quiet moments, Emma would often find herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She had come from a place of struggle, uncertainty, and self-doubt, but now, she was living a life filled with love and possibility. With Liam by her side, she knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. And for the first time in her life, Emma felt truly content. She was home, and this love, this life, was everything she had ever dreamed of. Months passed, and Emma and Liam's life continued to evolve in ways neither of them could have predicted. Their bond grew deeper, stronger, and more resilient with each passing day. Emma had found not only the love of her life, but also the courage to embrace the future without the weight of her past fears holding her back. She had built her art studio from the ground up, just as she had always dreamed, and now it was a thriving hub for local artists and aspiring creators. The small town they had settled in had become their home, a place where their love blossomed and their dreams took shape. Liam was there every step of the way, his unwavering support becoming the foundation on which Emma built not only her business but also her confidence. He was her partner in every sense of the word, helping her navigate the challenges that came with owning a business and being an artist, while always reminding her that she was enough, just as she was. It wasn't always easy, and there were times when Emma still struggled with self-doubt. But with Liam by her side, she had learned to face those moments head-on, trusting that together they could overcome anything. Their love had become a constant source of strength, a reminder that no matter what life threw their way, they were in it together. They had built something beautiful together, something that had grown beyond their expectations. But as with all things, their journey wasn't just about the highs. They had weathered their share of storms, doubts, fears, and the pressures that came with building a life from nothing. Yet, through it all, they had remained united, never letting go of the promise they made to each other from the very beginning, to face everything together, no matter how difficult it might be. One sunny afternoon, as Emma worked on a new painting in her studio, Liam walked in with a smile on his face and a glint in his eye. "I was thinking," he began, his voice light, "maybe it's time we take a trip. Just the two of us. A chance to relax, recharge, and remember what we're working for." Emma looked up from her canvas, surprised by the suggestion but intrigued by the idea. "A trip? Where would we go?" Liam grinned, his excitement evident. "How about somewhere peaceful? Somewhere you've always wanted to visit, where we can enjoy each other's company without any distractions. Just us and the world to explore." Emma paused, considering the idea. She had always wanted to visit the coast, to see the ocean and feel the salt air on her skin. It was a dream she had kept hidden for so long, never thinking it could become a reality. But now, with Liam's encouragement, she realized it was something she could finally pursue. "I think I'd love that," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "The ocean sounds perfect." Liam's smile widened as he took her hand in his. "Then it's settled. We'll plan the trip for next month. It'll be the perfect escape. Just the two of us, exploring new places and making new memories. Over the next few weeks, they made plans for their trip, carefully selecting destinations along the coast that they could visit together. It was a time of relaxation, adventure, and discovery. They laughed, talked about everything and nothing, and shared moments of quiet connection, taking in the beauty of the world around them. It wasn't just a vacation, it was a celebration of their journey together, a time to reflect on how far they had come and to look forward to what was yet to come. As they stood together on the beach, watching the sun set over the horizon, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. The ocean, vast and endless, stretched out before them, just like the future they had yet to explore. She looked at Liam, who was standing beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "This is perfect," she said softly, her voice filled with contentment. Liam turned to her, his expression full of love and promise. "It's only perfect because we're here together," he said. "And no matter where life takes us, we'll always have each other." In that moment, Emma knew that their journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more obstacles, but they had already built something unbreakable, a foundation of love, trust, and shared dreams. They were partners in every sense of the word, and no matter where the road led, they would walk it side by side. As they walked hand in hand along the shore, Emma felt a profound sense of gratitude for the life they had built together. She had never imagined that this kind of love was possible for someone like her. But Liam had shown her that love wasn't about perfection. It was about being seen, understood, and supported through everything. And with him by her side, Emma knew that anything was possible. The future was wide open, and they would face it together, just as they had from the very beginning.